Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you'd like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today, our guest is Leo Quinn. Hi, Leo.
Hi, Jude. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be talking to you. Tell me a bit about you. What do you do?
Well, I'm from upstate New York. I'm a local marketing consultant. Among other things, I help small businesses keep in touch with their customers, get them to come back more often, important stuff like that.
That's very important for any small business. When I was looking at you online, I noticed you had this really interesting rejection strategy. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I call it my summer of 1,000 no's. I decided that this summer I was going to get my sales pitch rejected 1,000 times by people that I thought I could help.
Why did you want to do that? It sounds kind of mad.
It was kind of mad. Well, I based the idea on a book. It's called Go for No. It's a book I bought 11 years ago. Wow. In March, so almost 11 and a half years ago. And even though I recommended the book hundreds of times in those 11 years, I never actually took on the challenge myself because I was afraid of rejection, afraid of hearing the word no. Yeah. So I would rely on emails and letters I would send in mail, stuff I would send in the mail. In my whole life, I haven't heard no 100 times. I haven't been rejected in my ear 100 times, and I needed to overcome that because I knew it was costing me a lot of money in the long run.
So I describe mavericks as willfully independent people. Would you say that you're a maverick?
Certainly in this regard, yes. I've told a lot of people about this. A lot of people have told me that they're going to do it, but so far I haven't heard much of anybody taking action on it. So it sounds great in principle, and certainly I thought it sounded great for 11 years, but I finally decided to take action. So in that regard, I would call myself a maverick, probably not in too many other areas, though.
So in my parlance, that might make you a maverick behaviorist, which is someone that acts like a socialized maverick, but the personality is a bit more conformist, except for in the areas of their interest, and that's when they act in a really maverick manner.
Right.
What made you change, though? Because 11 years of not doing it and then one day doing it, why did that happen?
Well, I'm 51 now. My relatives are getting older. I'm seeing that my parents have to take care of their siblings in some cases. And it's a situation where when I get to be 80 or 100 years old, I don't want to have people worrying about me. I want to be rich Uncle Leo. So the nieces and nephews want to take care of me in the hopes that they're in the will.
That's kind of funny. Mavericks tend to not have no being told to them at all, so I can understand it. In your area of expertise, not even hearing no 100 times makes sense to me. So what made you kind of think I am going to face that rejection? Because for 11 years you're almost frightened to do that. So
yeah, it was funny. I was looking for a summer project. I always like to take on these projects. One year in 2016, I did a different project every month. And so in January, I learned a new Polish word every day because my sister-in-law is Polish.
Oh, wow.
So I've taken on projects like this before, and I just thought the summer was coming, and I was looking for an interesting summer project, and this presented itself only because I found an old quote that I had liked on Twitter by the author of Go for No, and that quote was, "I can achieve every goal and reach every dream by simply hearing no more often." And that something clicked in me that day, and I said, this is going to be my summer project. 1,000, a no a day sounded too easy. 100 in a summer sounded too easy, but 1,000 made me nervous, so I figured that's probably what I should do.
So have you got to 1,000 yet?
I am at 677. I get about 12 a day, and I'll get there by August 30th.
What have you learned from it, or what are you learning from it?
I've learned it's nothing to be scared about. Most of the no's I've gotten have been on the phone, and I haven't. So I've made between 2,000 and 3,000 phone calls since June 10th, and it hasn't been scary at all. I've been hung up on a lot. Only one person used a bad word and then hung up. Most people have been very polite and nice and said, no, thank you, or we're not interested. So it really hasn't been anywhere near as scary as people might think. So if people are listening and they're not hearing enough no's, I certainly encourage you to go out and do it. One of the goals I have for the rest of my time is to hear more in-person no's, because those are the ones that you actually have a better chance of hearing a yes when you're in person, because people are more likely to give you a shot to hear your message.
So what benefit have you actually gained then with all these no's?
Well, it's funny. I can track $1,887 US to that I wouldn't have normally gotten to this project since June 10th. So that's that. And of course, you have a little more self-confidence. I've sort of made it a game now, so it's actually fun for me to get no's, at least on the phone. And I look for opportunities when I'm out in real life to get a no. Today I was on a toll road here in New York State, and my toll was $1.25. And I had a couple lottery tickets. We have dollar lotto scratchers here, scratch-offs here. And so I pulled up and I gave my ticket, and she said $1.25. And I said, can I pay with these $2 lotto tickets? And she smiled and said, no, if they were for me, you could, but I can't take it for the state toll. So, I counted that as a no, but it was, it's actually now fun for me. I'm looking for funny ways that I can get no's.
So you said that you're a marketing consultant.
Right.
So how does this approach benefit your clients?
Well, good question. I can actually use it to encourage them to do the same thing. I call myself a marketing consultant, but I also am a marketing implementer. So I'll give you the good ideas and then go out and do them for you. So it's something that I can use as a case study for their marketing efforts. I mean, I'm not going to go out and make 1,000 phone calls for one of my clients. If they have a staff that's able and willing to do that, it certainly can drum up some business for them.
So this is a very Maverick approach. Is there another Maverick approach that you have to do your work, or is this your one big idea?
No, I think I actually do lumpy mail, and I'm not sure if that's a concept that's familiar to you. Lumpy mail means you put something in the envelope that makes it lumpy, and it engenders curiosity and makes people open your mail. So over here in the States, we have pen companies do that quite often. So if you file a new doing business as certificate in your local county, you'll likely get a pen in the mail from a pen company that wants to sell you engraved pens. So lumpy mail is a concept over here, and I've done a lot of that in my life. So I've actually sent live working cell phones to people that I wanted to talk to. I've sent messages in bottles. We can put a stamp on a baby bottle and mail that. And I've done stuff like that. There's a company over here called sendaball.com that will write your message on a ball, put stamps on the ball, and mail it. So I've done a tremendous amount of that in my life, which I think is a Maverick way to do things. It's certainly very expensive compared to sending a postcard or a letter or an email. And I've had great success with it, but I haven't had, half of the success I would have had if I would have followed up with a phone call and say, I'm the guy that sent you the cell phone. Did you get it?
So you sent it, but you didn't call them on that phone?
I did not. I was hoping that they would just press send, because I did pre-program my number in the phone. And actually 30% of the people I would send a phone to actually called me, but none of them used the phone that I sent them.
Now that's interesting. Why do you think people behave in that way?
I don't know. It's probably just easier to pick up their own phone, but the interesting thing about the cell phones is they cost about $10, and you have to buy some minutes. So it's going to cost you about $20 these days to send a phone like that. But you can only buy in this country 3 at a time, because they worry about terrorist threats. So I could never buy very many cell phones doing that project, but it was fun.
It's certainly unusual to do something like that. So what do you think the best Maverick marketing mindset or approach you would suggest to a client?
Something that gets people's attention. And lumpy mail is a great example of that. And doing something that makes people look up from their phones, something that I'll use an example. In reaching out to you, I reached out via email. I reached out to actually 100 podcasters, essentially asking to be on their podcast, but also encouraging them to reply with a no. And pretty much every podcast I've been on has read part of the email I sent, because they were so impressed or shocked by the fact that someone who is asking to be on the show is also asking to be rejected and encouraging it, actually, because, if I get a no from them, I could use it in my summer of 1,000 no's. So if you had given a little more background to me at the beginning, I probably would have said, thanks, Jude, disappointed to be here, because you gave me a yes instead of a no.
That's true. But then you'd have missed out on the benefit of speaking to me.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I think that was quite an interesting approach. I found it quite curious. And it made me want to think, who is this person? In fact, actually, it was quite funny because it felt like a little bit like a game. Because when I came back to you and said, what would you want to talk about? And you said, I'm not going to tell you, here's my stuff, you decide. I thought, that's interesting. But you done it in a way that was curious as opposed to arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if the tone had been different, I think my Maverick heckles would have gone up, as opposed to my curiosity go, this guy sounds like he could be fun. Let's listen to his stuff. Let's have a look around. And I kind of thought to myself, I'll reply one more time, and if he does it again, then I'm not interested. But you came back and said, set a date. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so, and actually, it looks like when I first contacted you, I was at no number 320, and now I'm up to number 677. So
I feel a bit privileged now.
There you go.
So, what would you say? What got you into marketing? Is that the only thing that you've done, or? No.
It's funny. I took my finance degree from college. I guess this could be the first Maverick thing I did. So I got a finance degree, 4-year finance degree, and I started a carpet cleaning business. Because I had worked for an academic summer, a full-time one summer between my junior and senior years in college. I worked for a large newspaper here in the Albany, New York area, the Times Union, if anybody knows that. And while I liked the job, I liked the people, I didn't like the big company politics. So I decided that I didn't want to work for anybody else out of college. And one of my grandfathers owned a dairy. One of my grandfathers owned a restaurant. So there's entrepreneurialism in my blood. And I figured I would carry on the tradition. And so carpet cleaning turned into getting into debt. And then I took a class on getting out of debt. And I decided, hey, I'm going to teach that class. So I started teaching a class on getting out of debt, turned that into an online business. And all the while I've been studying marketing and had a lot of great ideas for other businesses, but I didn't want to start a restaurant, or I didn't want to start any kind of retail business. But I love helping business owners, talking to business owners, giving them ideas. And then when you give them ideas, you check in 2 months later. Hey, did you try that? No, I don't have time. So that's where I got the idea to be more of a marketing implementer rather than a marketing consultant. I'd love to be able to get a $10,000 check for giving them some good ideas, but I realize if they want to keep in business, we'll probably have to have some implementation.
So how does your mindset differ from other people?
Well, good question. I think one of my mindsets is I really don't wait for someone to anoint me. I took a get out of debt class in November of 1996, and I started teaching that class 2 months later. Now, there are some people who are going to think, my God, I'm not qualified. I can't do that. Nobody's going to hire me. And 6 school districts hired me to teach in their continuing education program without any credentials at all. Another reason, I reached out to 100 podcasters to talk about this project. What have I accomplished? Yeah, I made it $1,800, big deal. But I knew that there'd be plenty of people out there that are just like me. They are reluctant to hear rejection, but it's really going to change your life if you get out there. So I really don't wait around for people to anoint me as qualified to do anything. I just get out there and try. That
makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of success in life and certainly in business comes from having the right mindset. And I think if you're saying to your clients that you need to develop this kind of rejection mindset, how would you describe getting that mindset? What would you expect them to do?
Well, one of the things I recommend people doing is you don't have to get on the phone and do this. Do what I call stunt no's. And an example is the lottery ticket thing I did today. I call that a stunt no. There's not going to be any real change in my life if I get a yes, other than I'll have a good story. So there's a website called Rejection Therapy. It's run by a guy named Jia Jiang. He came to prominence a few years ago with his 100 days of rejection. So he went out there and he got rejected once a day for 100 days, and he filmed them. And he would go in, he knocked on somebody's door and asked if he could play soccer or football in their backyard, a complete stranger. And they said yes. He asked if he could make an announcement on a Southwest Airlines flight, and they said yes. He asked if he went to a burger restaurant and had a burger, and then went up and asked for a free burger refill, and they said no. So he's got 100 stories like that. And I call those stunt no's. So that's something I would encourage people to do, just to have fun. Go order coffee and ask for the good guy or good gal discount. You're probably going to know, but you're probably going to have a fun story to tell at some point too.
And what do people do with those fun stories?
Good question. Use it to build up the courage to get no's that are more important to you. Asking for a raise, asking the girl out on a date, asking for a client meeting or a potential client meeting. It'll give you the courage. It'll make you realize that no's aren't so bad. And sometimes you'll get a good story that you can tell to encourage you to keep going.
So what is it that you're developing in yourself when you keep getting rejected?
I think a thicker skin, and courage to get no's in other areas as well. This is business. I have a long-term relationship, so I checked with her to see if I could go out and try this on women, and she said no. I got a no there. I didn't count that in my summer of 1,000 no's. So I think the next time I go to buy a car or furniture or any big ticket item, I'm going to be much more likely to ask for a discount. I'm in the market now for a new cell phone, so I'm going to go see if I can get some no's and asking for good deals there. So I think it's going to expand to other areas of my life, just not in my business, not only in my business.
So why 1,000 no's and not 1,000 yeses?
Oh, good question. Because I have absolutely no control over the yeses. To some degree, I have a control over the no's. If I was looking for yeses, how many yeses have I had so far? I keep track of the money because you can't deposit yeses in the bank. So if I had to guess, I'd say I'm between 20 and 30 yeses, or they need more information. And so if my goal was 1,000 no's, I would be incredibly depressed right now because I have less than 30 days to get 980 more no's, or yeses, excuse me. So that's why I'm a goal setter who sets goals that I have control over. And that's where a lot of people get into trouble, I think, in setting goals, is they set results goals. And even though you want to lose weight and you're eating well, you have really no control over what the scale says. You have control over what you put in your mouth. So, a few years ago, I had to lose some weight. So I made a goal of eating only 2,500 calories a day because that's what I could control. I couldn't control what the scale was going to say and how my body was going to metabolize everything, but I could control what I put in my mouth. So I'm always a fan of process goals rather than results goals.
Okay. So some of these no's that you're going for, are they just related to work, or are they related to other things as well?
Well, most of them have been work related, but there's a couple examples. The toll taker today was, I also have driving into my garage, a lot of the blacktop is now settled, so there's quite a lip there. It's like going over a speed bump into my garage. And so I want to get some blacktop that I could just put in there and make it a lot smoother. So a few weeks ago, I was driving by a bunch of guys who were putting in a new parking lot at a apartment complex, and they had a bunch of blacktop. So I stopped and I said, "Hey, can I buy half a bucket of this blacktop for $10?" Because I had $10 on me. And he said, "Let me check with my nephew." And he checked, and he comes back and he says, "Just buy the guys some beer." He wanted me to buy some beer for the workers as a trade for a bucket full of blacktop. And I said, "Well, what kind?" And he said, "A 36-pack of Miller and a 36-pack of Coors." And so he wanted me to buy 72 beers for 5 guys. And that's a lot of beer. So I really didn't have time for a beer run, so I turned him down. But I would not have tried that sort of thing before this summer of 1,000 no's. So anytime I can get a no now out in the wild that's not related to business, it just helps me build confidence and gives me hopefully encouraging stories to tell to people who might be hearing these interviews and wanting to get out and try it.
So what's the benefit of those stories? So when you get to September, what are you going to do with what you've learned now?
Good question. I want to put my story, write it down. I also want to talk to other people who have taken on similar challenges. They had a goal to get 100 no's in this business. They had a goal to get 200 no's in this business. So, and I'm running across stories like that. So I really want to put that all together in a book of some kind, just to encourage people, because I wasted 11 years of my life from 40 to 51 just being afraid to go out there and get rejected more often. And I want to help people avoid that same thing if I can.
That makes sense to write a book about that. What do you think that you would do with that learning though? So like, how will your business be different in September now that you've done this summer?
That's a great question. Well, one of the goals I have for September is I'm going to start a new challenge. I haven't worked on the number yet, but I want to do most of the no's I've gotten are from people who don't know me, or they've never heard of me, they've never gotten anything from me. For my autumn challenge, I want to send something in the physical mail and then follow up so that they've actually heard of me, they've seen something from me. I'm going to call up and say, I am the guy that sent you the message in the bottle. Did you get it? So that's what I want to do for my next challenge. Right now, it's just to get to the 1,000 no's and to report on the results from that. But moving forward, I want to get no's from people who've actually heard of me and have had a chance to review what I'm talking about, rather than just be some anonymous guy on the phone.
Okay. So it sounds to me that this is what you're doing for the summer is practice to make you a better salesman in the autumn.
Right. And yes, a good point. And just to, be not afraid of that. No, I really don't consider myself a salesman. I'm not, I couldn't sell, I always joke, I couldn't sell $100 bills for $5. I'm a guy who presents what I can do for you. And if you want it, you want, I don't have any verbal jujitsu that I can use to convince you to go with what I'm suggesting. I'm looking for the business owner who knows that he or she should be doing what I suggest and just needs somebody to help them.
Okay, so what makes you different then from any other marketing implementer?
Good question. I think I come with a lot more experience in terms of the non-techie stuff. As I said, I'm 51. I've done a lot of this stuff, online stuff, but I really prefer the offline thing because our mailboxes, at least over here, are relatively empty. I just watch my mailman walk by without leaving me any mail. So I like to encourage my clients to get less technical with their stuff. They can find an 18-year-old who can help them, a 12-year-old who can help them with the online stuff. I want you to use me to help you with the offline stuff, the thank you notes, the birthday cards, the stuff that really make you stand out amongst the competition.
Okay, that is certainly different. So in the sense that most people are going more online, but what makes you stand out in the post? In the mail.
Yeah, the fact that I'll send my letter in a baby bottle. And there's actually a gentleman, I think he's over in the UK. He got an appointment with somebody. He got a plastic, I guess a life-size plastic pigeon, and he taped the letter to the pigeon, put stamps on the letter, which was on the back of the pigeon, and mailed the pigeon.
Yeah.
So I've now been on the hunt. If anybody is listening and they can get me a supply of plastic pigeons, I would love to do that because I think that's a great attention grabber. It
is, and it's a novel approach. So is that how would you sum yourself up? So if I was going to be describing you, what would you want me to be saying?
Good question. A marketing implementer. He'll give you the great ideas, but he'll also implement them for you.
What about you, as you the person, you Leo? What would I say about you?
Yes, he's a funny guy with a lot of good ideas. My motto is, if you laugh at my jokes and say that's a great idea on a regular basis, we'll get along just fine.
Excellent. I think actually that's probably a good place to stop. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. So I hope you had fun, and would you come back again?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Leo.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Leo as much as I enjoyed having it. If you'd like to learn more about Mavericks and leadership, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, apply to join the Maverick Paradox exclusive Facebook group. And my website is maverickparadox.com. Find out how willful independence can ultimately change all our futures. Thanks again, and see you soon.